Hello, and welcome to this very first episode of the newly relaunched TMT Talks, the podcast about everything mobile intelligence, mobile identity, and mobile insights. Mobiles play an increasingly important part in our lives, and so the ability to get insights and intelligence on customers or users when onboarding them, or to prevent fraud or even verify age, is now crucial for businesses globally. I'm Fergal Parkinson, co-founder and director of TMT ID, and for this very special first episode, we've really stretched the budget, and I'm delighted to welcome my colleague Matt Hornsey, our head product honcho, or the VP of Product and Purchasing, to give him his correct title. Matt, a very warm welcome to TMT Talks.
Thank you, Fergal. Very good to be here.
Now, I should explain why we thought it was a good idea to have a colleague as a guest for this very first episode. And it's because I thought it'd be a good idea to kick off with an overview of what we'll be talking about on this podcast series, the world of mobile intelligence, mobile identity, and mobile insights. And after hearing you, Matt, talk about it a lot over the past couple of years, I think there's no better man to give an explanation of what it actually is. So no pressure at all. So, Matt, kick us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got here.
Okay, sure. Yeah, no, it's a interesting and curious road, but it all started. I was never meant to be in this industry. I was meant to be in advertising and marketing, but I applied for a job as a random learning experience in between university and going into my first job, and somehow that job was with a very tiny little island telco called Jersey Telecom. And it began my 24 career to date. I've been doing many different things, from mobile messaging to putting GSM systems on cruise ships in the middle of the Atlantic, wow, putting SIM cards in rental cars in Canada, and all sorts of random things.
Okay.
And somehow that all led me to this place, which for the last 8 years has been working within mobile intelligence, mobile identity, and joining the dots between telco information and people's identity, and helping businesses solve the challenges and the riddles of, is this really my customer at the end of this phone?
So TMT via cruise ships and rental cars.
Exactly. A very strange, heady mix.
So we talk a lot at TMT about mobile intelligence and mobile insight.
Yes.
For those who don't know what it is, give a good explanation of what that actually means.
Sure. So we like to think of that as in two parts, and it's the best way, or maybe even three parts. So what is number intelligence? At its root, it's understanding that the phone number that someone gives you is a good phone number, ultimately. We want to know, does that phone number exist in the world? Is it a phone number that can be used to reach a person? And is there ultimately a person at the end of that line? So really, that's the rich context of the number itself. Then we want to understand if there's a mobile identity attributable to that number. So here we're starting to link that number to a person's identity. Is there a name? Is there an address? Is there a date of birth, an email address, or something similar that proves the relationship between a number and a person? We're then also looking at a number of telecoms network signals that give us trust in that relationship. Because, of course, while there might be a relationship at one point, which is true, things can happen and things change, and relationships can move and change. And in that, they can become false. So it could be today, me, and tomorrow, someone else. And we use our third part of the product in insights to join up the dots between those two, the intelligence and the identity, so we know when those changes are happening, and ultimately deliver a comprehensive insight product to our customers.
And tell me how our customers, the businesses and the companies, the organizations who are using our data, how are they using it and why?
Well, it ranges, and that's what's great about mobile. It goes from the simple to the complex. So at the simple end, we're helping businesses know to safely deliver one-time passwords, those critical one-time passwords that let us access the services we need every day. But at the same time, we're helping businesses know that it's me that's signing up and onboarding myself to their business. So I've given my name, everything looks good. Apparently it looks like me, but then the mobile phone number I give maybe tells a different story. So we're helping lots of business understand if it's really me or it's someone who's taken over my account or indeed is trying to be a person in the middle between my real identity and the fraudulent one that they're trying to use to effectively conduct some level of fraud or steal some money or some other fraudulent activity. Aside from that, we can build stories and journeys with our customers that combine these different number intelligence, mobile identity, and mobile insights to power products and solutions that solve real problems. And we do that in a number of sectors, from the classical that everyone will know, financial services, all the way through to some really interesting applications in e-commerce platforms, content stores, some of the biggest in the world, all the way back to gaming and gambling accounts.
So give me some, if you can, real life use cases for our data. You don't have to mention any of the names of the companies involved or the organizations involved, but give us, if you will, just some real life use cases of how our data is being used every day.
Sure. I mean, it's really great and absolutely without brands being mentioned. So if we stay at the sector level, let's start with what I mentioned last, which was gaming and gambling. So within there, it's very important from a regulation point of view, and that's certainly a driver. What we've seen is mobile identity has been in existence for a number of years, but really, just like anything, it needs regulation to really drive it home. So gaming and gambling is a great sector to evidence why that's so powerful. So in that sector, we need to know that someone's logging into their gaming account is who they say they are. We need to know that their name and address is true. We need to know that they are of age, i.e. gambling age. Depending on the country, that can vary, but let's say here in the UK, that's 18 plus. We also need to know that if I'm coming back to my gaming account, that it's me logging in from my trusted device. And there are services that we provide that allow us to match that activity in session to me and my phone number, so the gaming company know it's me accessing my service. And it goes all the way through to different layers of information that power that journey, all the way through to understanding if I'm in my home location, which is another regulatory requirement. So if I'm in the UK, I'm allowed to game and gamble. And if I leave the UK, maybe I'm not. And again, there are services all powered by the very simple idea and notion of a mobile phone number that allow us to inform these critical decisions. And that's just one sector.
But also, we're seeing a huge rise at the moment in the number of requests for age verification and age requests. Just explain to us what that is and how it works.
Sure, yeah, and it's a fantastic use case because it's increasingly important. We need to protect many different people, including the children in our society. And mobile phones are a place in this journey. They give us the ability to understand if a person at the end of a phone number is age verified or at least age assured. And we work with many of our partners who do this at the app level. They do it at the device level. That may include an element of biometric, but also using the mobile phone network and the mobile phone number, we're able to validate simple information around whether I am 18 or whether my date of birth matches the record that they may hold. What's even more powerful with mobile phone data is within the context of a mobile phone subscription, there are different services that the mobile network afford me or prevent me from accessing. So we're also able to access information around content lock or parental control. This gives us the ability to inform our web content store partners as to whether there's any risk of a false positive of an age-verified adult who's given a SIM card to a minor. And these content lock and parental lock controls allow us to dig deeper and be sure that the information we provide is at least double, triple, or even quadruple locked in terms of verification.
And what about just authenticating users, Matt? Ensuring that the person who's accessing an app, maybe using a service online on their mobile, is who they say they are.
Yeah, and again, the mobile number is perfect for this because it's one of the few things that live us through all of our interactions, our life cycle. It's there when I register for a service, and it's there throughout that journey, and it's there when I'm logging back in. So it's a perfect way to re-authenticate me as a user. We've generally seen that through one-time passwords. We see that through passkeys. We see that through other technologies. But the mobile can play an important part. You will have heard of something or many different names for the same thing: passwordless authentication, silent authentication. And effectively, this is exactly that. By providing your mobile phone number, we can verify that that's the phone number being used in session to access that mobile app or web content. and thereby proving possession, ownership of the phone number, and it being the same me accessing that service.
And talk to us a little bit more about that life cycle of that mobile number, because I've heard you speak about this before, but it's worth just repeating here again about how a mobile number exists before us. It exists with us, and it may exist in the future when we may not be associated with it anymore.
Yeah, no, and again, this is the power of the phone number. You can use it to do all these different journeys through a customer life cycle. So at the very first point, a phone number is being presented by a user as part of their onboarding registration journey. We already know something about that phone number. We're able to look back at our number intelligence and view where that phone number is in the world. Can we identify any particular challenges with that phone number and identify which mobile network is serving that information and that subscriber? At that point, we can then step through the onboarding of that customer by matching their name, address, date of birth, email address, and other information. All then, as I begin my relationship with that business and continue my relationship with that business, I'll come in and out of my account with that business. And each one of these steps affords them another verification or authentication step with the mobile phone number. Something simple like a SIM swap check. Has anyone attempted to take over my account by intruding with a duplicate copy of my SIM card? We can flag that. Likewise, has anyone changed the device? That could be a positive or a negative flag. There's many different signals that we get from the mobile phone and the mobile phone number that allow us across that life cycle to know if it's the same interaction. And of course, critically, people choose to end their relationship with certain businesses. We all fall in favor with a brand and sometimes we don't. And at that point, we effectively take our mobile phone number away from that service. Things also happen in our life that change, whether we move countries. Sadly, maybe we pass away. But there's a moment when that phone number may not become linked to us. So just as it's important for a business to know that I've chosen to offboard myself from their business, what if I haven't informed them? And the mobile number allows us to check if a number has been abandoned, deactivated, or indeed recycled, which poses a whole new threat, because under recycling, it could be a genuine person who's got my old number, has no intention to do anything nefarious with it, or it could be a bad actor who knows exactly what to do with that phone number. And so at that point, we work with many businesses, e-commerce platforms particularly, to let them know when numbers are no longer registered to the user they think it might be. And what's even more powerful, not only have we done number intelligence to know at the point of registration what's the backstory of the phone number, we've then protected and verified that identity through the process of the engagement with the business. But after the event, we can also apply insights to understand what that number is doing in the future. And we can help inform businesses all about the past, the present, and potentially the future.
And at the moment, Matt, it's all about fraud, isn't it?
It is.
Lots of discussions around fraud and how to prevent fraud. But fraud, has many guises, one of which is APP fraud.
Yes.
And how can mobile intelligence, mobile insights, the data that we have and see, how can that help the particular fraud of APP and then just fraud in general?
Sure. I mean, it's a great example of where the industry, the mobile industry and the financial industries have collaborated, at least here in the UK, and there is talk of these services being rolled out further afield. But what happens in a classic sense now is, it used to be theft. Now it's scam. And scam is a really big problem in our industry. And scam is where people are unfortunately tricked into moving sums of money or providing access into their accounts or purchasing products that they'll never see. And again, mobile provides a valuable insight. Now, we all have to be clear, in many of these solutions, it's not the only solution. It needs to be brought together with other solutions to provide ultimately that service that's needed. But Telecom's information is incredibly powerful here because most scams will result in me being engaged in a telephone conversation. Not all, but many. There is a way through the telecoms partnerships that we have to verify at that point that there's any suspicion of a transaction or an access to an account or a phone call being placed to me, whether that is indeed me who's at the end of that line. And if it is me, did I receive that call and how long have I been on that call? All of which together with a vast array of other insights, some of which we provide, some of which come from other parts of the industry, allow us to verify a sense of trust or risk in that journey. And APP fraud is just a great example of one of those collaborations between data from different parts of the ecosystem coming together to solve one of the biggest problems we face right now, scams.
And a lot of the demand for our information and intelligence that we provide on mobile numbers globally increasingly now is driven by regulation or legislation around the world. And so our services are moving from a nice to have to a must have. And so, just give me your sense on the increasing regulation out there, which now requires organizations to do a lot of the checks with their mobile customers that they may not have had to do in the past.
Yeah, I think we've grown up, very reliant on the technology that we had at the moment, and that's now being used against us. And, one of the key messages for the industry is it's really important that one-time passwords are good. And yes, for the vast majority of transactions, they are going to the correct user, and that correct user is putting the right code in and authorizing their own access to the service or a transaction. But there is a group of fraudsters, hackers, who are using those techniques to bypass those security. And so it's no longer sufficient to just think that that's trust. We have to look deeper. And regulation is opening opportunities where the mobile is being seen as both a complex part of the equation, but also a very simple, high-level, top-level part of the journey, where you can create a simple pathway to solving some challenges. And as you mentioned before, age verification is a particular one. We're seeing age verification becoming a requirement all around the world. US, Brazil, Australia.
UK.
Here in the UK, indeed. And mobile provides part of the solution, and it's very accessible to all. But there are a number of other regulations. There's PSD3 coming out as a review for financial services industry for scam signal. There's a vast amount of fraud occurring in the gaps, and regulation is helping to highlight the solutions and drive towards better outcomes for both businesses and individuals.
And one of the great things about mobile data is that it's very low friction. And so, in order to verify, authenticate someone, doesn't require them to upload anything or give any personal details other than a mobile number quite often.
It does, yeah, and that's what's incredibly powerful. And we built some demonstration tools that really evidence that. So simply at the front door, you can do so much with just the mobile phone number and our relationships with mobile networks around the world. And that's what's also great. It is a mobile global proposition. There are operators all around the world serving billions of subscribers. There's even more good news, and that is traditionally it's been very hard to get access to these services even as a business like us. But there is a community within what's known as the GSMA who are opening up more and more insights globally from telcos. And that is only going to be a good thing as we solve more problems for our customers on that international point.
Excellent. Matt, thank you. I was going to ask you to tell me something interesting, but you've already told me about the cruise ships and the putting SIM cards in hire cards. So beyond that, what does mobile number expert Matt Hornsey do outside of looking at mobile data?
Well, I can say right now the most interesting thing I'm doing is I'm learning archery, which is it's something I've dabbled with for many years, but now I've signed myself up to a proper club, and I go and arch 2-3 times a week. And I haven't yet entered a competition, or at least a serious competition, but I'm hoping to do that later this year.
Excellent. And the equipment needed is quite.
Oh, it's
quite sophisticated, isn't it?
It can be, yeah. But I mean, it starts from the most beautiful handmade longbows, absolutely beautiful things.
So it's longbows.
Honed out of wood, all the way through to absolutely stunning and recurve and compound bows, which look like something that you would see in a very particular class of action movie, let's say. But they are fantastic things in the right hands, and it's a great experience to learn to hone your skill and your focus to hit a target at quite considerable distance.
Well, from hitting a target outside work to targeting fraudsters in work.
Absolutely.
Matt, many thanks. And thank you for joining us here on the very first TMT Talks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching TMT Talks. Don't forget to subscribe for new episodes, follow us on LinkedIn, and sign up for our newsletter.